So this is where this whole conversation started. December 26th, Vivek, he tweeted, merit or group quotas. Can't have both. I've said it for years, and it remains my view today. Merit or group quotas. What the hell does that mean? Because if you're saying that, do you want people to come here on merit or group quotas? What is the merit requirements? And when he tweeted this, all of X just went bonkers. He says the reason top tech companies often hire foreign-born and first-generation engineers over Native Americans isn't because of an innate American IQ deficit, a lazy and wrong explanation. A key part of it comes down to the C word, culture. Tough questions demand tough answers. And if we're really serious about fixing the problem, we have to confront the truth. Our American culture has venerated mediocrity over excellence for way too long, at least since the 1990s and likely longer. That doesn't start in college, it starts young. A culture that celebrates the prom queen over the math Olympiad champ or the jock over the valedictorian will not produce the best engineers. A culture that venerates Corey from Boy Meets World, or Zach and Slater over Screech and Saved by the Bell, or Stefan over Steve Urkel and Family Matters will not produce the best engineers. Fact, I know multiple sets of immigrant parents in the 90s who actively limited how much their kids could watch those TV shows precisely because they promoted mediocrity, and their kids went on to become wildly successful STEM graduates. More movies like Whiplash, fewer reruns of Friends, more math tutoring, fewer sleepovers, more weekend science competition, fewer Saturday morning cartoons, more books, less TV, more creating, less chilling, more extracurriculars, less hanging out at the mall. Most normal American parents don't look skeptically at those kinds of parents. More normal American kids view those kinds of kids with scorn. If you grew up aspiring to normalcy is what you will achieve. Normalcy. Now close your eyes and visualize which families you knew in the 90s, or even now, who raised their kids according to one model versus the other. Be brutal honest. What did he... Normalcy doesn't cut it in a hyper-competitive global market for technical talent. And if we pretend like it does, we'll have our asses handed to us by China. This can be our Sputnik moment. We've awakened from slumber before we can do it again. Trump's election hopefully marks the beginning of a new golden era in America, but only if our culture fully wakes up. A culture that once again prioritizes achievement over normalcy, excellence over mediocrity. Oh my God, I can't. Mediocrity, I'm just going to say that. Nerdiness over conformity, hard work over laziness. That's the work we have cut out for us. Rather than wallowing in victimhood and just wishing on legislating alternative hiring practices into existence, I'm confident we can do it. So the problem here is he goes back to culture. He's saying that it's a cultural thing. And this is the first time I'm reading this. And I'm reading this. You mean to tell me that this man is trying to explain the reason why we benefit more from H-1B visas is because foreigners have a better culture than America when it comes to being educated? Now that's BS. Yes, Americans, we are consumers, but when you look at the engineers, when you look at the inventions that we have today, whether it's the railroads, whether it's the cell phones, whether it's the television, whether it's whatever, they were all made and created by Americans, not H-1B visas. H-1B visas are not the innovators. They are just the worker bees who are being paid less, way more with what they were getting paid in India, but they're getting paid less than American. They're just the worker bees. Nothing more, nothing less.
I heard everything you were talking about, and I kind of slightly. So let's go back. So I'm a international school founder. Okay, I am a co-founder of Ikra Bilingual Academy in Dakar, Senegal. We have 1,000 students from 35 nationalities, and we specifically cater to the children of Islamic diplomats, ambassadors, West African heads of state, and business people. With that being said, Vivek has a point, my love. Vivek has a point because remember I told you the story about how I ran away to Africa and I took my daughter with me. So she went to half of preschool there and half of kindergarten there. When my baby was in preschool, when they were teaching her how to write, out the gate, because we were in Islamic school, they taught her how to write in cursive. So when she came back to the States as a 5-year old, she could write in cursive. When we were teaching the children how to write their numbers, instead of having them write one big one big two, the children have to write their multiplication tables out so that you're learning your multiplication and how to write your numbers at the same time. I think that we are suffering from the soft bigotry of low expectations here. And this is why I push her so hard. Like right now, she has a super high GPA. She's like a 4.25 GPA. She's in a gifted program. I don't abuse her, but I tell her, I don't take you to school to get B's. Don't play with me. And so she does not. She gets A's. And there's no, I'm not forcing drill cards down her throat or making her write essays, but that expectation is there. We have a culture now where people believe that the A students go work for the C students. And yes, that is true. There is some truth to that because when you are not as academically sound, you tend to take more risks. However, those A students are always, not always, but those A students have a better chance at making a more stable contribution to the society in the sense that they are going to go get higher paying jobs. They're going to be more educated and they're going to get more wealth. This is why the Yoruba people in the United States are the highest paid black people, or the black people with the most wealth. And it has nothing to do with them being Yoruba and us being American Negro people, but they specifically go to school for engineering, uh, sciences, high paying positions. Whereas when I graduated from Hampton, the number one major was psychology. And that's because we want to understand what happened to us, and we want to go back and we want to help our people. So a lot of times we put a lot of our academic capital into making our communities better rather than chasing the dollar. Like even with me, I flipped my corporate paycheck into my movement. So we're in a different paradigm. However, these H-1B visas are disrespectful because every college across America is graduating engineering students at the master's, bachelor's, and doctorate levels. So you got people going to school, getting these high level educations, only not to be hired, not because they're not as qualified, but because it's cheaper to hire a foreigner. That foreigner does not have a social security number, which means that you don't have to pay social security for them. You're going to pay FICA, no Medicaid. And if you have a position, for instance, it's not just the engineers in Jackson, Mississippi, they're looking for English teachers with H-1B visas to come down there and teach our cousins in Mississippi how to write English. Well, the reason that they have to do that is because if they were to hire a teacher, that teacher is going to join the union and she is going to be eligible for a municipal pension. Remember, they're trying to get rid of the pensions by any means necessary. So that's what this is about. And Vivek was very disrespectful to American culture by saying that. And if he thinks that our culture is not great, he should go to where the people with the great culture are. But that doesn't mean to bring them to our country to take our jobs.
Well, I look at it like this: if these other cultures are so better, right, and so advanced, and just so disciplined, why are they not making their own country great again?
Because they're a small group. So one thing I always tell them is you cannot compare your best to our worst and then claim superiority. You got to compare apples to apples. And the fact of the matter is the intellectual classes of all these people are doing about the same. but they don't want to stay in their country. They want to come over here and live like the intellectuals. You know, they want to take bubble baths and drink lattes and do all of these things that are associated with wealth and class in America. So they don't want to stay in their countries and build those things. They want to come where it's already built and then come to us and look at our worst. I mean, they're our absolute worst. They'll say, well, your children can't read and your children act up in school. Not my black child. She don't. I bet now my child passed the test that your child couldn't. And that's why you pay for school and my child goes to the elite public schools, right? And I get that. However, we as a people, not just the American Negro people, but as American people, we gotta start pushing our kids harder. Like the fact that reading or math proficiency in the Chicago public schools for Black children sits at 8% is disgusting. The fact that reading proficiency sits at 11% is disgusting. And you know, there's no outrage about it. Nobody is like saying, oh, we're gonna march down on the board, or I want to come to the school, let me see your curriculum. Instead, people say, oh, well, it was COVID and COVID is the reason people couldn't do it. No, they gave you everything you needed to do what you needed to do during COVID. They gave you the computer, they gave you the headset, they sent you the lunch, they gave you the stamps to cook dinner. Like, you could have done that if you wanted to do it. Not that I'm knocking people, but we just got to try harder. We got to try harder. But these foreigners are not better than us, not in any way at all. And we got to push back against that, because we got to remember that they started this immigration movement in the beginning to suppress the Negro wage. Frederick Douglass told us this in the 1840s. The same conversation was happening 180 years ago. So we know it's an act of Negrophobia, but we got to make ourselves more competitive at the same time.
Dana with the data. Dana with the data.